work with Prince William, we watch Prince William up close, and lots of what he says in this are things that people and sources have said to us about him and his thought process on things. So what I found really interesting was hearing him.
Picture waking up to whispers that the royal playbook has been rewritten, while the rest of the world was watching something else. In the most hush-hush corners of London society, the talk isn't about another ribbon cutting or a glossy balcony moment, but about an approaching handover that feels far closer than anyone outside the palace gates has been led to believe. The chatter is that Prince William has been quietly operating like the monarch in waiting, not in a ceremonial, someday way, but with the kind of day-to-day authority that makes staffers adjust their tone, their timelines, and their loyalties. Behind that shift is the shadow hanging over King Charles. Sources say his health has worsened at speed, leaving those around him bracing for a future they once thought was years away. And while the public sees continuity and calm, insiders insist Buckingham Palace has been rattled by the speed at which William has started to shape what comes next. Within royal circles, the line being repeated is that William has effectively slipped into the role, in all but name, especially as his father continues to deal with serious illness. One palace-connected voice summed up the mood as emotionally bracing for a transition, even if the official steps haven't been formally locked in. That's the part that turns this from garden-variety gossip into something that has courtiers watching the calendar. A well-placed source told Rob Shooter's newsletter that Charles is expected to pass the crown to William within the next year, with the shift handled in a careful, dignified way designed to protect the institution's image. Context matters here. In early 2024, Buckingham Palace confirmed King Charles had been diagnosed with cancer, and in the months since, William has noticeably widened his public footprint, taking on more appearances, more decisions, and more responsibility as Charles has reduced his schedule. People close to royal operations say the monarchy doesn't survive by clinging until it's forced to change. It survives by moving early enough that change looks like continuity. In that sense, whenever the formal moment arrives, it may feel less like a dramatic surrender and more like the final click of a door that's been closing for a while. William has been trained for this from birth, and the point insiders keep making is that he's not waiting passively for a coronet to touch his head. They claim he's already acting with the focus of someone who believes the future is his job now, not later, and that has surprised even seasoned staff who thought they knew the pace of royal life. But the closer William gets to the center, the messier the internal politics become, because the palace isn't a single mind, it's a web of egos, history, and hard-won status. And the person reportedly feeling the ground shift most sharply is Queen Camilla. Her reaction, according to multiple reports, has not been serene acceptance. Radar Online cited insiders who said Camilla was deeply upset over how William and Kate handled the approach to Prince Andrew's removal from public-facing royal life, and one account goes further, claiming that when King Charles agreed to give William greater control, Camilla was distraught and begged, in essence, for it not to happen. A "don't do this to me" moment that signals just how personal this feels inside the family. Even for readers who take any single retelling with caution, the broader storyline repeats across sources. Camilla values the role she fought decades to occupy, and she doesn't see herself as someone who should quietly fade into the wallpaper simply because the next generation is rising. The idea that William and Kate are increasingly treated as the monarchy's headline act, the power couple around whom everything now revolves, has allegedly left her feeling pushed to the edges. One insider described Camilla's camp as believing the Waleses pulled off a decisive power play by pushing to remove Andrew from Royal Lodge, framing it as a move that sidelined her influence and signaled who is calling the shots. Whether or not William and Kate set out to make her feel boxed out, the message being received in Camilla's orbit is that control is shifting, and quickly. Senior royals, the story goes, have been blunt in private. The Waleses will soon run the show, and when Kate is queen, Camilla's comfort, access, and standing will depend heavily on how the new reign chooses to structure life for the old. That tension feeds directly into what some outlets are now calling an outright feud between Princess Kate and Queen Camilla, something described as far more intense than a frosty exchange at a formal dinner. Multiple reports paint their relationship as increasingly sour, to the point that staff have allegedly had to fine-tune schedules so the two women aren't forced into unnecessary proximity. The moment often cited as the spark that sent the temperature soaring is the state visit involving U.S. President Donald Trump. Insiders speaking to Closer described an atmosphere where every gesture was scrutinized, every outfit choice read like a statement, and the spotlight felt like a prize being fought over. Kate, by those accounts, drew attention immediately when she accompanied First Lady Melania Trump, carrying herself with the kind of polished confidence that cameras adore. The same sources claim Camilla clocked the optics instantly and didn't appreciate what she saw unfolding in real time. There's also lingering talk from the state banquet, with palace chatter suggesting Camilla interpreted Kate's choice of tiara as more than sparkle, more like symbolism, a glittering hint that the line between princess and queen could be shorter than anyone wants to say out loud. What makes this clash matter, according to royal watchers, is that it's not simply about personality. It's about influence, image, and who becomes the emotional center of the modern royal story at a time when the institution is smaller, more scrutinized, and less forgiving of missteps. From Kate's side, sources say she believes Camilla needs to rein it in because public moments of tension have, in their view, strained William's relationship with his stepmother and made the family dynamic harder to manage when they're trying to project unity. All of that personal drama sits beside a bigger, more intriguing question. What kind of king does William actually want to be? Because according to those who follow him closely, he isn't just preparing to inherit the crown, he's preparing to retool it. In Eugene Levy's The Reluctant Traveler, William spoke openly about embracing change and wanting it to be for the better, stressing he isn't plotting anything wildly extreme, but he does think certain traditions should be looked at honestly to see if they still make sense in today's Britain. That framing matches what royal editor Rebecca English of the Daily Mail has predicted, a future reign where pageantry isn't abolished but trimmed back, with ceremonies pared down and some of the more theatrical flourishes softened, less of the heavy, old-world grandeur, fewer plumes, less velvet, and a general move towards streamlined presentation. English also reported that William is expected to slim the royal household and rethink how royal warrants are granted, pushing for an approach that keeps long-running practices under regular review instead of letting them run on autopilot. Even the workload could change. While there may be fewer engagements overall, the message is that the ones he keeps will be chosen for impact rather than optics, shifting away from show events and toward work that looks and feels more substantial. William himself gave a hint of that mindset in an interview with Sky News while in South Africa, saying he wants to do things differently for his generation and imagining a monarchy that feels more approachable and less sealed off behind rituals that can read as distant. And there's another layer that made some insiders nervous. A source quoted by Rob Shooter described William as strategic rather than sentimental, not inclined to forget slights easily, and not particularly forgiving when he thinks someone has crossed a line, an attitude that would mark a sharp shift from what the public has come to expect from the crown. If anyone wants a preview of that no-nonsense streak, royal observers keep pointing to the Prince Andrew saga as William's first major power moment in this unofficial leadership era. Insiders say the situation became a test of instinct and priority. Where King Charles was reportedly tempted to be softer with his brother, giving him room and time, William pushed for clean, decisive separation, advocating that Andrew be fully removed from public life to protect the institution from ongoing reputational damage. That contrast, heart versus hard calculation, is the difference palace watchers say will define a future William reign. Former BBC royal correspondent Jenny Bond has said William is determined to modernize and to put clear distance between himself and Andrew while focusing on connecting with people across society, not just the traditional circles that once formed the monarchy's comfort zone. Royal author Robert Jobson has echoed that view, suggesting William won't allow dysfunction to eclipse duty and predicting a reign that could be tighter, more disciplined, and more decisive than his father's. The Andrew situation also appears to have widened the crack between William and Camilla. Reports claim Camilla viewed William and Kate's efforts to push Andrew out of Royal Lodge, near their own home at Adelaide Cottage on the Windsor estate, as an assertion of dominance, a way of forcing the issue while leaving her out of meaningful input. The fallout doesn't stop there. Sources also claim William preferred keeping the York family, including Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, away from the spotlight until after King Charles's next health review, while Charles leaned toward a more public healing process, a choice that reportedly surprised aides and irritated William, who sees the Yorks as a political and PR hazard. Put together, the pattern being forecast is clear. A King William who moves fast, shows little tolerance for scandal, and prioritizes what he believes safeguards the institution even when it bruises personal relationships, an approach that would set him apart from both his father and his late grandmother. And then there's Kate, widely portrayed as the not-so-secret weapon in William's rise, the steadying force who doesn't just smile for the cameras, but helps set the strategy. Royal commentator Russell Myers told Hello magazine that Kate is vital to the monarchy's machinery, and that her middle-class background gives her an instinctive understanding of life beyond palace walls, something William is said to value as he tries to keep the royal brand tethered to modern reality. Insiders say she supports the idea of running the monarchy more like a business, with clear priorities centered on stability for their children and steadiness for the country. The narrative around her is supportive spouse in the background anymore. It's that she's actively shaping the next era from within, even if much of that work happens off camera. Commentator Hilary Ford has emphasized that Kate's influence is likely to grow as the monarchy evolves and as their children get older, with her presence behind the scenes becoming more consequential. What has sharpened public sympathy and respect, sources say, is her resilience after her own cancer diagnosis and treatment, returning to public duties with a visible determination that drew widespread admiration. Those close to the situation claim Kate believes this period demands unity and decisive leadership, and that she has tried to hold that line even while managing the realities of her health. One insider described months of difficult conversations and weighty decisions that Kate has stood through alongside William, and while it has taken a toll, the consistent claim is that she hasn't buckled, she's become tougher. Emily, a royal commentator featured in Hello magazine, has also noted that William and Kate's strength comes from the way they balance each other, building a stable, loving home for their children, in a way many hope will translate into long-term stability for the royal family itself. If William does become King William V, the prediction from commentators is that Kate, as queen consort and ultimately the queen, won't just be a figure at his side, she'll be a co-designer of a reimagined monarchy. So what happens when the inevitable finally becomes official? The constitutional reality is that when Charles dies, William becomes king immediately, and Prince George becomes the heir apparent, first in line. The expectation is that William would return to London to deliver his first address to the nation as monarch, stepping into a moment that is as personal as it is historic. He is widely expected to take the name King William V, following the tradition of Britain's previous kings named William, while Kate would become Queen Catherine, initially referred to as Queen Consort, though in time typically known simply as the Queen. Planning for the coronation would begin, but multiple sources suggest it would look noticeably different from Charles's, shorter, less ornate, and designed to feel closer to ordinary people rather than locked inside layers of spectacle. The broader operational shift, royal watchers say, would be a palace run with more of a corporate mindset, greater transparency, clearer accountability, and a sharper insistence on purpose. The old assumption that the institution could hide behind centuries of tradition and hope the public wouldn't ask too many questions is, by many accounts, fading fast. There are also questions about what William will do with lingering family controversies, especially around the Sussexes. Royal expert Awa Ashian Ponghagen has suggested William may choose not to strip Harry and Meghan of their titles, not because tensions do exist, but because he won't want that to become the headline act of his reign. Her argument is that it could make him look small, and that William would rather be defined by charitable work and a legacy with substance than by settling scores. At the same time, not everything would be tossed out. Sources continue to insist William and Kate are traditionalists in their own way, and that cornerstone events like Trooping the Colour, celebrating the sovereign's official birthday for more than 260 years, are likely to remain. The shift, as it's being framed, wouldn't be about detonating the monarchy's structure, but about making what already exists feel current enough to survive. Then there's Camilla, whose future role would, in the end, be shaped by William's choices. Insiders say King Charles has made a final request that William allow Camilla full access to palace privileges after his death, and some reports claim Camilla herself helped put that arrangement together. Whether William will honor it is the looming question, and the same people who describe him as methodical and strategic argue that nothing will be automatic unless it aligns with what he believes serves the institution. That's why this moment feels like the edge of a generational shift, a monarchy facing one of its most dramatic reinventions in decades, with a future king who, by all accounts, isn't waiting for a crown to be placed in his hands. The tears, the power struggles, the battles over image, and the never-ending scandal management all read like scenes building toward the same conclusion. The William era is approaching, and it may look nothing like what came before. If this rundown changed the way you're looking at what's happening inside the palace, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next update, and drop a comment with your take on whether William will make a strong king and what role, if any, Camilla should have when the next reign begins.